Hey, welcome to Growth Rising. I'm Bird, and here I like to talk about things dealing with astrology, basically planets, signs, birth charts, whatever. I just like to talk about it. But today I'm gonna be talking about specifically the third house in your birth chart. And the third house, there's 12 houses, 360 degrees, and divided into 12 slices of pizza or pie, or however you describe it. Because I always say, like a pizza, I'd be like the pizza, the crust, the cheese, the pepperonis. But anyway, stay focused. You know what? And that's actually kind of something because I'm talking about the third house, which is ruled by Gemini and Mercury. And so, like with Gemini, sometimes you can be talking about one thing, then another, and then it just goes on and on and on, and you can get off topic. And that's what I just caught myself doing. But anyway, so yeah, the third house is ruled by, traditionally is ruled by, Gemini and Mercury because Mercury rules Gemini. And Mercury is also one of those planets who rules two signs, Gemini and Virgo, but we're talking about Gemini today. And I'm just reminding myself because for some reason, all of a sudden I want to just get off topic. But anyway, yeah, the third house is the house of communication. Obviously, I've been demonstrating that since the video started. But the third house also deals with our conscious mind. It's like when we start to be aware of other people's point of view, because the third house also deals with, like your siblings and your neighborhood. It's also where we make our like perceptions, observation skills, and also where we gather information, because Geminis, they like to learn. That's just something that they do. It might not necessarily be like in school or in a book all the time, but it's some kind of way that they want to learn more. um the third house is also where we find our voice. So, in the first house is the house of self, the second house is the house of resources, and now we're in the third house. So now we have a voice. We're finding our voice rather, for whatever best fits us. And also the third house deals with writing and communication styles. Whatever, type style of communication you have, that will be affected by whatever sign is ruling your specific third house and whatever planets are in it. So, like, if you're somebody who doesn't like to necessarily talk a lot, it may be for a reason. Maybe you have Saturn in your third house, and so you may just be a person of very few words. Or you could have Mercury in your third house, and you're somebody who just won't stop talking. Not saying that either one is a bad thing, but it's just, the different types of communication styles. There's plenty of different types, and none of them are wrong. None of them are right. I mean, I guess whichever one best fits you is right. And if you try to be something that you're not with your communication style, then that won't be right for you. But anyway, going on, it's also the house of um, early education and, like learning. So it can also talk about whatever type of student you were in school, like, throughout elementary, middle, high. The sign that rules that house and the planets that are within that house could tell a lot about what type of student you were, going back to the Saturn and also to the Mercury. If you have, like, let's say Saturn in your third house, um you may be somebody who learns by a certain set of by a certain set, like a certain set of rules. Like, you just can't learn any kind of way because it doesn't click with you, because you have a specific type of way of learning. And with Mercury, you might be the type of person who has to hear it to learn it. Like, or you have to write notes to learn it, or you might have to talk about whatever it is to learn it, whatever the subject is. I don't know, history. But you'll probably be that type of person who needs something outside of yourself to help you to learn it, as in talking to someone, listening to someone else, writing down on a piece of paper, something to where you can grasp a hold of whatever it is that you're learning. And it also deals with the third house deals with transportation, short journeys, emails, gossip, phone calls, text messages, the things that you should look out for during a Mercury retrograde. That's the stuff that, well, some of that is the stuff that, you'll have within the third house. Because, during a Mercury retrograde, always double check your emails or whatever it is that you have to send, and always make sure that it has sent. Sometimes whenever you're talking to someone in the Mercury retrograde, which we are in the pre-shadow period of a Mercury retrograde as this video is being made, but sometimes you may have to repeat yourself because whatever you're saying may be taken out of context, or maybe they just didn't understand what you were saying. So that's just some of the stuff that's within the Mercury retrograde and why you have to look out for that type of stuff. But yeah, keep in mind, like, let's say you're Aries rising, so your third house, going by the whole house system, is ruled by Gemini. Some of the stuff may be more stronger for you. Like if you are Aries rising, your third house is ruled by Gemini, and you have Mercury in this house, all of that is just like, I don't know, go be a writer or something. Just joking. Don't just go be a writer if you're Aries rising, because there's a lot of other stuff that goes into that. But but just saying, do pay attention to the planets that are within it, because that will tell you some stuff, like for one, about your siblings. Or if you don't have siblings, it can just be about, the neighborhood that you grew up in. And if you grew up like, out in the country, not around a lot of people, it could also talk about, just those people who are like close to you while you were growing up, because, like siblings, or, like close cousins who were like siblings, stuff like that. So, it just can tell us a lot about how you were growing up and the people who were closest to you, especially, like the people around your same age group. Well, I don't necessarily want to say that, because it doesn't necessarily mean your same age group, because there are some people who have siblings 10 years older than them, and it could still describe some stuff from that sibling, which to me is pretty interesting. Because I remember being asked, because okay, I have like one of my sisters, we grew up in the same household, same exact parents, we saw a lot of the same stuff, but yet we are two very different people. And I remember somebody asking me a while back, like, you and your sister, y'all are not alike. You would think that with that being your sister, that y'all would be more alike. But looking into our birth charts, that pretty much describes why we're not alike. I'm not going to say that we're like night and day, because we're not, but we're not like the Gemini twins or something like that. It's just that, she has her certain things that are within her third house that could say a lot about me. And I have some things in my third house that, are like, okay, well, I get that. And it's not necessarily saying that if you have Saturn in your third house, it's going to mean that you, like, it's telling all about your sibling, as if your sibling is a Capricorn rising or an Aquarius rising. No. Like, okay, just sticking with Saturn. If you have Saturn in your third house, that could mean that, one of your siblings was also like a parent, or like someone who also helped to take care of you, and or you had to take care of them. But it deals with, that sense of responsibility, with Saturn, because Saturn is going to have and I know I talk a lot about Saturn, but Saturn is going to have a lot to do with, like the rules, the regulation, the strictness, the getting things done the way that they should be. And that's the type of stuff, like, let's say if you have Uranus in your third house, you could be somebody who has a sibling who's like 12 years older than you, because, you know, Uranus is the planet that does not want to go by any kind of rules. It's want to surprise you. Or you could have a sibling who's like 12 years younger than you because that sibling was a surprise. Everybody thought that your parents were done having kids. Boom, there goes a sibling. And so now you're like a big brother or a big sister. That's the type of stuff that, you know, could be with just Uranus. And, you know, every other planet is not saying that it's going to be telling that specific siblings rising or all of your siblings rising. It's just going to talk about um, how things could have been with your siblings or in your neighborhood while you were growing up. But yeah, just wanted to clarify that because I didn't want somebody to think, I have Saturn in my third house. I wonder if my brother or my sister is a Capricorn rising. It doesn't necessarily mean that. It just speaks some of what you guys' childhood could have been like when you were growing up. But yeah, so I hope that you had that you have learned something and that you enjoyed this video. Leave a comment below or a like or even share with somebody who, you know, may be learning about the third house. But either way, I hope that you have a great day. Hey.